Everyone, welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod, Digital Nomad Edition. Today we're with Andrew Murdoch. He is founder and business YouTube strategist at ytera.com. You can go visit him. An interesting guy. He's a digital nomad, Canadian like myself. Connected with him on his Instagram. He's into a lot of things, fitness, traveling, and so forth. And crypto. We're going to talk about that. He's a fascinating human being. We're going to have a nice conversation over the last 23-ish minutes. Andrew, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit more about your digital nomad journey and YTera.
Yeah, happy to. I've been a digital nomad since 2018. I've lived as a digital nomad in Canada, the US, Mexico, Spain, England, Scotland, and now Costa Rica. Heading back to the US here in the next little bit for another spell, and love the digital nomadic lifestyle. A lot of people seek out the location independent lifestyle for all of the benefits that it offers, and I certainly enjoy those benefits. However, my transition to a location independent lifestyle was a lot different than many. You probably heard the term, Charles, like burn the boats. Have you ever heard that term before? Burn the boats?
Obviously. Yeah.
I like to tell people that the boats were burned for me. I found it was late 2018. I found myself at rock bottom, what can only be described as rock bottom. I had just ended a marriage, and I never in a million years thought I was that guy to end a marriage. Life was brutal. I did not have a healthy mindset. I was sleeping on an air mattress in the spare bedroom of a friend because I had nowhere to go. I gave stuff away. I donated things to charity. I put the few bare essentials in storage. That was in Vancouver in late 2018. I haven't been back since. And two things really saved my butt big time. Two things. One was becoming a location independent digital nomad, because it allowed me to reduce my living expenses to near zero levels, which allowed me to get myself out of massive financial mess. And number two was becoming obsessed with YouTube, believe it or not. I can point to a number of YouTube channels and in some cases, specific videos that helped me get my mindset right, my finances right, my health and fitness right, all because just some online business savvy entrepreneurs saw the value in the YouTube platform to grow their exposure, their brand awareness, their credibility, their authority. And in some cases, I actually became a customer of theirs and signed up and got their mastermind or got their online course. In other cases, I didn't pay them anything, but their brand was still growing because they were getting those views and those watch time from me, right? So I became obsessed with personal development, professional development. And here I am what is it now? Like 4.5 years later, founder of YTera, a YouTube marketing solution for businesses. Because YouTube had such an impact on my life. Now my goal, my mission is to give back and ensure other what I'm trying to focus my attention on these days is focus my attention on businesses that are bringing very valuable products and services to the marketplace that solve the world's biggest problems. Our motto at YTera is we amplify the world's biggest solutions. And I say that because I struggled with a lot 4.5 years ago, and I wasn't alone, and I'll never be alone in those struggles. My whole thing is, I don't care how tall or short you are, what color of skin you have, what part of the world you're from. Everybody, if you're a human being, everyone struggles with problems, obstacles, challenges in health, wealth, and relationships. So now we focus our attention on businesses bringing valuable solutions to the marketplace in health, wealth, and relationships. That's the quickest way I could probably bring you up to speed.
You have an interesting story for sure. First, we started our stories or nomad stories, and mine was also somewhat of a pivot during the same years, precisely 2018-ish. I came back from a student exchange trip. Back in these days, I was a student, and I was almost burned out from staying with my parents, right? That's the priority when you're young, is to get the fuck out of your parents' nest at ASAP, especially when you're entrepreneurial and ambitious. And for me, it was a lot of stress, right? A lot of friction, of constantly having to deal with their stress, and manage that, like, it's weird, right? You're this young person, you're managing someone else already. which explain nowadays why I can manage organizations such as big as 100 employees and manage everyone's emotions and so forth. That's my type of personality. But back in these days, I knew that I had to move and quick. So I booked the first Airbnb that I saw, the cheapest one in Mexico. I booked my ticket and off I got. I got to Oaxaca, Mexico, in which I met my wife, and then we started traveling the world. So but I
Nice.
want to come back to your story because it's quite interesting and lots to unpack there. So one ending a marriage is probably one of the hardest thing to do in the world. Emotionally, it's just breaking. It's like a full out going at war with yourself. And yeah, and by the way, another reason that motivated my move as a nomad was because I was heartbroken too. I left my girlfriend thinking about it, and that was really, really heartbreaking. It was so hard to do. So when is the right time to end a relationship, and what tips do you have to put back a broken heart back together?
Wow, really great question. So I live my life by a very stoic philosophy. I've come to I recently turned 40 in October, this past October 2022, and in my years I've come to the realization that it's a complete time waster, energy waster, soul sucker to waste any energy on factors or outside influences that I have no control over, right? The analogy I like to use that I wrote about in a book actually about being a digital nomad is the weather. And there are so many people in this world that love to complain about the weather. And I'm certainly one of those people. I'm not, I live in Costa Rica now, and it's no surprise I left Canada. I'm not a big fan of the weather in Canada, but I took action. I did something. I didn't complain and whine and moan about the weather. I did something about it. And in the analogy I like to use, I'm going to grab an umbrella and I'm just going to go. And then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to see a whole row of people way behind me still complaining about the weather, right? And so that's the analogy I use. And coming back to actually answer your question, I realized that when I was still in the marriage, I very honestly realized, and with the loving support of my mom and some close friends, realized that the relationship was very toxic, extremely toxic. We did everything we could to save the relationship. I encouraged us to go to counseling from the pastor who actually married us, and we were receiving counseling from him together, but then also one-on-one. And thankfully, that gentleman had a huge heart and realized that we were in trouble and that we needed help. And things were just going from bad to worse, really. And I didn't see a solution. I felt that the only healing that both me and her could do was to end the relationship and move on. And the proof for me was, I don't know if I've actually ever shared this publicly. The proof for me was after the marriage was over, I didn't for a single second miss her. And I felt very guilty for that. It made me, I was like, how could I marry someone and then leave and not miss her? And I had a really wonderful conversation with a good friend of mine about that. And he said it was because I went through the stages of grief and loss while I was still with her, which is why there was no divorce, separation, painful, right? I'm going to say something a little controversial right now. The marriage was worse. The separation, the divorce was actually uplifting. It was a huge weight that was removed. It was a freeing sensation. It was the pain was no longer. And the marriage was hell. The divorce was freeing. So take that for what it's worth. Hopefully someone can resonate with that story and learn from it. But yeah, I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. I made a lot of mistakes. And the whole point is learn from those mistakes and move forward, become a better version of yourself at the end of the day.
100%, especially as a stoic, you made the decision to get into this, but like, yeah, us humans, we're so imperfect, and sometimes we take risks, and we experiment stuff and we learn from that. That's like us humans. The weather thing, Goggins, like when it rains, just go out and run, like Goggins is probably like, or both of our guides for that. Love David. Shout out to Goggins. For relationships, I have like weird philosophies on my end. Well, obviously the heartbreak was kind of hard. So yes, there's a basis to like everyone and how they are, which comes from their education, how they were raised by their parents, and so forth. So you kind of got to deal with that package. Me, some time ago, I just committed that to the very long term, for better and for worse. And one thing I'm optimizing constantly in my relationship is it's one single thing, like that's the 80%, and it's trust. If I can get trust right, everything just falls together. That's what I optimize from. Not gonna spend tons of times on that one, but people will do what they want to, whatever that means. I also subscribe very much to the Stoic philosophy, which is the very best philosophy in hard times. Beginning of this year, business was scarce. Markets were frozen in January for lots of businesses. Yeah, Stoic was my go-to philosophy, when you're used to having 5 to 10K weeks, 50K uptimes, and it falls to like 1K or 2K. You're like, what the hell's happening here? Okay, need to fall back to good old stoicism. And one of the best tricks I used was very hard exercise every weekend, 2 to 3 hours, hit workouts literally and condition my brain, right? And it worked. It worked, right? And the Stoic philosophy is really a go-to. Want to talk about digital nomadism because it was a solution for both of us. I love digital nomadism because it gets to change my environment, and one of the best human characteristic that you can work on nowadays is adaptability, and grit could also somewhat be a synonym or share a part of the Venn diagram here. But grit and adaptability, that's super important, especially in the age of AI. A lot of people have a hard time adapting to this new wave that is coming. And yeah, like changing country, changing environment, just change your brain. What do you like the most from digital nomadism? And also, what were your favorite countries and why?
Great questions. Yeah, I love that you actually just said the word adaptability. I really resonate with that. I use that word a lot often. However, I also build on that with resourcefulness. After being a digital nomad for this long, I can tell you that we are wired differently, aren't we? Like we have the capability, the self-confidence, the self-esteem to jump on a plane, take a one-way ticket, get off that plane, and be completely in an alien environment for ourselves, hearing a different language, different accents, different foods, different culture, different religion, different stories, different everything. And we adapt, we thrive. Tony Robbins talks about this all the time. It's not about the access to resources that you have, it's your resourcefulness. And the individuals in the marketplace today that have the ability to adapt to their current set of circumstances, they're the ones that will thrive regardless of whatever's happening in the business space, the marketplace, whether it's AI or something completely different. It's those people that have that mindset of adapt and overcome, figure it out, figure it out, figure it out. Digital nomads are ingrained with that, right? We just, it's part of our personal lives and our professional lives. My entire team, all of the employees I've added to my team are 100% remote. And they have the opportunity to be digital nomads as well. And I love that. Coming back to one of your questions, I love the control aspect. I love the control. I love the freedom. I love that very few governments, companies, institutions, society in general can tell me what to do. Because if my current environment became unfavorable for any reason, whether it's a global pandemic, a more localized epidemic, civil or political unrest, it could be a natural disaster. It could be an earthquake, a tornado, what you name it. If my current location became unfavorable for any reason, I fold up my laptop, pack up my gear, I jump in an Uber, a bus, a train, a plane, and I can immediately get myself and my loved ones. You said yourself that you and your wife are digital nomads. Get myself and my loved ones and get to a much more favorable location. Internet access is not a problem because it's 2023 and it's only going to get better thanks to Elon's Starlink and Google's Loon project. All of the futurists that I follow have been predicting that within the next 2 to 3 years, at least according to Peter Diamandis, that gigabyte speed connections are going to be beamed down to the Earth's surface. Every square meter of the Earth's surface at near zero cost. Some experts are saying that access to the internet needs to become a human right, and I definitely support that narrative. Being able to not be tied down by a physical geographic location gives a digital nomad an unfair advantage. I don't care if you're a high-powered doctor, attorney, or what have you. If your profession, if your income depends on you being in a specific building, a specific city, a specific province or state or country, then you have just an intrinsic disadvantage of with regards to the control of your life, the control of your income. A digital nomad isn't restricted by that, and there's power in that. There's freedom in that. And I think I answered all your questions, but let me know if I missed something.
No, that's perfect. And I'm gonna throw a bunch back. I love these pods because they're like mental sparring, and they get us both stronger and smarter. First, the crossing the border, like, and if planes are not available, like end of the world, I'll just run it. Shout out to Goggins again. I'll go in the woods and I'll cross the border. The second thing here, yeah, the Wi-Fi good, perfect. My only it's not a concern, but it's like, yeah, the waves, like in the cancer talks, like I'm a biohacker, so I'd be interested to study the effects and the 5G and all that, and Diamandis and cool and futuristic folks like you and I will find a solution to that. The other thing, the other team here is control. I won't use the word control freak. Me, it's more like independence. I think is a better connotation, and radical liberty / libertarian. Because yesterday I was listening to a podcast and it was, Lex Friedman and Max Tegmark about AI and the letter to stop it for 6 months. And listening to it, I felt that both, especially the Max Tegmark, he was uncomfortable, fearful because of AI, because of too much control, so it's like, dude, chill a little bit, like stop being fearful. I think that fear kind of blurs the conversation, and was like, yeah, let go of control a bit. Like when you do ayahuasca, sometimes you need to let yourself being fully controlled in some instances, and that is liberty. That is liberating when you let that control. But yeah, I guess it depends on one situation and the other. The next topic that I want to discuss is the pros and the cons of digital nomadism, because I feel that I almost maxed it out. And to your point, from a business perspective, people talk about hybrid. You're seeing the Twitter conversations, and Apple released a memo yesterday at 7 a.m. telling their employees to at least show up 3 days at the office. So there's always pros and cons, right? And Apple, they do that because of trust mostly. Most people are not ready to work from a remote environment. Most humans are not to be trusted. They will try to cheat the system. So there's always pros and cons, but also and obviously I'm in the same boat as you, as we discussed the last time. I'm fully remote from day one, and all my employees. It's really hard though to get people that you trust over the year. But from a personal perspective, I almost maxed out digital nomadism. Like me and my wife, we don't want to travel too much anymore. We're about to have a family and so forth. But even before that, it's just so tiring to take planes all the time. It's really stressful. It's really shitty experience in planes, like they don't know how to treat their customers. And it's just a very hard niche to be in. So much competition, too much regulations and so forth. So are you still down with the digital nomad life? Like in my case, it was traveling every month to a new destination back in these days. Then it became 2 months, then 3 months, then 6 months. And eventually I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm going to buy a house here. So are you still down with that lifestyle?
Yeah, I'm still maximizing the digital nomadic lifestyle. I have been in Costa Rica now for about 1.5 years. Now, while living here, I've had a number of trips to the US, mainly for work reasons. And I certainly don't plan on leaving the digital nomadic lifestyle anymore. But like you, I also found traveling too frequently to be a little bit of exhausting. So I think the new term is slow travel, whereby you're in each location for a longer period of time. I know we don't have a ton of time left, but speaking to the pros to me are obvious. I think it's probably more interesting if I talk about the cons. However, I gotta frame it like this. There's pros and cons to the digital nomadic lifestyle. There's pros and cons to living location dependent, right? Anyone who thinks that you're going to become a digital nomad and all of your problems will be solved. No, that's not going to happen. You're trading in one set of challenges and obstacles for a completely different set of challenges and obstacles. However, the difference is, how do you view those challenges and obstacles? Are you looking at them as an opportunity, or are you looking at them as a legitimate disadvantage or a legitimate con, right? I'll give you probably the most obvious example. You can't really be a digital nomad unless you're also willing to absorb the minimalist lifestyle. And there are plenty of people out there that don't have the wiring, don't have the mindset to adopt a minimalist lifestyle. I don't need a lot of things in my life, which is why I can travel the world with 2 bags and I have access to everything I absolutely can need. And if I don't have it, I go buy it. Simple as that. And I don't look at that as a con, but someone listening to this conversation, watching this conversation right now, might actually look at that as a con. I don't think that's a con, because I value life experiences way higher than materialism, way higher than access to certain items or toys or amenities in my life. I couldn't care less, because I know when I know myself well enough. I've done the self-work. I know when I'm lying on my deathbed, I'm not going to regret not buying that house. Not going to regret not buying that car. I am going to regret seeing the pyramids in Egypt, not seeing the pyramids in Egypt. I am going to regret not scuba diving the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. I am going to regret not having sushi in Tokyo. I have a list of over 100 things that I want to do around the world. Those are the things that I'll regret. So pros and cons, no matter what lifestyle you choose, you're going to come across them. I just prefer to focus on the positives.
Love it, dude. Yeah, next episode we're gonna need to talk about crypto and your business, because I feel that one was mostly on nomadism, and I think you've added tons of value there. And if I can just quickly follow up on these points, 100%. And also in life, nothing's black or white. You know, it's always gray. That's first. So it's percentages of advantages vs percentages of disadvantages, and that becomes even more obvious. That lifestyle vs your genes, your personality, who you are as a human. So if you're an entrepreneur, I think like generally, yeah, better fit. For minimalism, yes, I've been through it as well. Simplicity is king, usually speaking. Less complication from a mental perspective, but like if you want to start your digital journey, you don't necessarily need to be like super minimalistic. Like I traveled with 2 luggages initially, with a wife that loves having a bunch of clothes and all of that. So I talked with other nomads that were Canadian also, that were that way. But huge value added today, Andrew. Thank you so much for this interview. Where can people find out more about you?
You can find my company at ytera.com, ytera.com. And for anyone that wants to actually connect, LinkedIn is probably the best way. Nothing against the other platforms. I just find there's a lot less trolls, a lot less hate, a lot more maturity on LinkedIn. Yes. And so that's where I'm most active. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.